The character, a 55-year-old man, appears tired and worn out, thinking about his age and the struggles he faces as he holds his sword. He reflects on his life, feeling like a failure, thinking that, by this age, others would be preparing for retirement, while he's still struggling. Suddenly, a growl and noise in the distance alert him, as he senses something dangerous approaching. Confronted by a menacing creature, the character asks himself why he's such a failure, with the creature not allowing him any time to catch his breath. The warrior faces a horde of monstrous beasts, reflecting on how his generation is praised, while he's just seen as an old man with a sword. Despite years of battle, he feels overlooked and forgotten, with no true recognition of his efforts. A flashback to his childhood shows him as an orphan, abandoned and alone. Meanwhile, a teacher, bloodied and captured, reassures a terrified student, promising to protect her despite the chaos. Run! As she is gruesomely attacked, her life slipping away. In the chaos, the children, including the young boy, scream for help, but they are overwhelmed as the monsters close in, tearing through everything in sight. As the boy looks on, he recalls the horror of the collapse, the moment when everything changed and monsters rained down from the sky, bringing death and destruction to their world. Amid the devastation, the boy, covered in blood and tears, watches helplessly as the monsters decimate his world and the people he loved. The boy, drenched in blood, stands helpless as the monstrous creature looms over him, remembering how it took everything from him, leaving nothing behind but loss and despair. Yet, despite the overwhelming grief, he refuses to give in, whispering to himself, "I won't let them take everything." Just when he feels like death is closing in, a powerful figure emerges, standing tall against the darkness, its light cutting through the chaos. The boy, eyes wide with awe and hope, watches as the figure approaches, offering him a glimmer of salvation when he thought all was lost. The mysterious figure, standing in a radiant glow, asks the boy, "You okay?" as he watches the boy struggle to stand, still covered in blood and tears. The boy, barely able to speak, is overwhelmed by what feels like a miracle, the impossible happening before his eyes. As he looks up, the figure's presence fills him with awe and hope, and with newfound determination, the boy feels his strength returning. "I was saved by that figure, and I wanted to be like them." He struggles with the monster, his body battered, his thoughts consumed with frustration, asking, "I really gave it my all, so why?" Despite his tireless efforts, it feels as though nothing changes, as he's overwhelmed by the sense that no matter how many monsters he slays, it never seems enough. His anger boils over, and in a moment of pure rage, he shouts, "This fucking—" before the full weight of his exhaustion and failure crashes down on him. Standing in the midst of the destruction, tears filling his eyes, he realizes, "I didn't get strong for shit. I couldn't protect anything." He struggles with the monster, his body battered, his thoughts consumed with frustration, asking, "I really gave it my all, so why?" Despite his tireless efforts, it feels as though nothing changes, as he's overwhelmed by the sense that no matter how many monsters he slays, it never seems enough. His anger boils over, and in a moment of pure rage he shouts, "This fucking—" before the full weight of his exhaustion and failure crashes down on him. Standing in the midst of the destruction, tears filling his eyes, he realizes, "I didn't get strong for shit. I couldn't protect anything." Sang-yoon, surrounded by the lifeless bodies of his comrades, grapples with his failure to protect anyone despite giving everything he had, overwhelmed by regret. Exhausted and battered, he screams in frustration, questioning his worth and the point of his struggles. "Man, I want to regress," he mutters. Shin Sang-yoon, having successfully cleared the dungeon of the ancient dragon's nest, sits exhausted amidst the destruction, reflecting on his intense struggle. As he catches his breath, he sarcastically remarks about his age and the exhausting nature of his efforts, questioning why he's still working so hard at nearly 60. He then bitterly reflects on his life, acknowledging that despite 30 years of dedication as a swordsman, his greatest achievement has been ranking in his country's top 100. After clearing the ancient dragon's nest dungeon, Shin Sang-yeon reflects on the realization that he's just one of many players in the world, feeling insignificant. As he contemplates his reward, he wonders if it's another skill book, humorously questioning if he can eat it as he has with other artifacts. Suddenly, the late bloomer model student Constellation, his contracted god, appears and blesses him for his hard work, congratulating him for his final strike. Shin Sang-yeon, a third-rate swordsman, reflects on his lack of achievements despite 30 years of swordsmanship and his reliance on a powerful constellation known as Late Bloomer Model Student for guidance. Although grateful for the constellation's help, Shin faces frustratingly high requirements to unlock its full potential, as seen in his current level of 650, while the constellation promises great benefits at level 850 and beyond. When presented with a skill book as a reward, Shin humorously contemplates whether he can eat it, as he's previously consumed artifacts, only to be urged by the constellation to eat the book for further growth. Shin Sang-yoon, a battle-worn swordsman, laments his meaningless struggles and failure to protect those he cared about despite all his efforts. After barely surviving a brutal battle, he clears the ancient Dragon's Nest dungeon, receiving a skill book and an unexpected visit from his contracted constellation, Late Bloomer Model Student. Though grateful for the partnership, Shin is frustrated by the high-level requirements for the constellation's benefits, but he presses forward, using his unique skill, Devour artifacts, a power he has spent 30 years trying to understand, even through bizarre cooking experiments. Shin Sang-yoon continues to realize the power of his Devour artifacts skill as he activates it using mana synchronization with the right artifact, understanding it finally after many failed experiments. However, Shin feels frustrated as he reflects that other awakened beings quickly grow stronger, while he still struggles with his own growth. He closed the book, then swung his arm and threw it away in frustration, saying, "Shouldn't this have some instructions or something?" The model student says there is very little information about the skill the main character is searching for and apologizes for not being able to help. He then mentions that since there is still a lot of time, the main character should start mana synchronization again. However, the main character, with a furious expression, asks, "Who said, I have a lot of time left? I'm almost 60. He then continues to think and realizes that if he had a child at 30, that child would now be 30 years old, and if he had a child even earlier, he might have grandchildren by now. The Late Bloomer Model Student apologizes sincerely for possibly saying something wrong, but the soldier reassures them that they haven't done anything wrong, though he is conflicted as he says, "It's just," and looks down. The Late Bloomer Model Student then opens up, admitting that their life is full of regrets, making them appear more vulnerable as they hold their book and look away. Shin Sang-yoon reflects deeply, recalling how he tried to emulate a person's back. But now, with exhaustion setting in, he feels as though he is too old to continue and looks back, filled with fatigue. The chapter ends with the soldier contemplating his past efforts and weariness, showcasing his inner turmoil and a feeling of resignation about his age. Shin Sang-yoon, with a hint of regret, wishes he were just a little younger as he stares at the book in his hands, lost in thought. The Late Bloomer Model Student, speaking up with a serious tone, tells him to take note, as they are about to retire and cancel their contract, advising him to find another player. With a flash of light, the student begins casting a powerful spell, and Shin, still in shock, watches as the magic unfolds before him. As the scene intensifies, Shin is left stunned, realizing he's witnessing something beyond his comprehension. The Late Bloomer Model Student reflects on their last memory from when they were 55 years old, utilizing the essence they had experimented with in the past. They then mention dungeons and gates, hinting at their connection to a mysterious world. A reporter, Park Jong-min, elaborates on the environments where awakened people, or players, thrive, further explaining that these are the places where these players engage. Han Hyun-jong, the CEO of a corporation, adds that dungeons serve as stepping stones for these players, helping them advance. Han Hyun-jong explains to Park Jong-min that the gates lead to other dimensions, specifically connecting to unknown regions. As she further clarifies, these regions are places where players need to explore and pioneer. Meanwhile, a television broadcast featuring Hyun-jong emphasizes that these gates form the foundation for players to develop their skills. In the following scene, the protagonist reflects on the passage of 4 days, contemplating the strange regression he has experienced, realizing that he's somehow gone back 30 years in time. After regaining consciousness, Shin Sang-yoon finds himself in his old studio apartment, but something is drastically different. He is now in his 25-year-old body, not the 55-year-old one he had just been in. He reflects on how he must have regressed, likely due to some miracle or intervention from the constellation, though the exact reason remains unclear. Shin Sang-yoon, still confused, looks around and mutters to himself, "Well, whatever," while grabbing a dagger that looks like it has some significant power, an artifact with agility-boosting properties. With a quick flick of the wrist, he then wonders aloud, Should I go out and work? As he assesses his current situation. Shin Sang-hyun continued reflecting on his situation as he examined his newly acquired bronze-tier dagger, thinking, it may not be much, but it could be useful. Despite its low rank, Shin was certain the hidden skill of the artifact would play a crucial role, given that its mana synchronization had just begun. As he pondered his current state, he realized that his absorption rate was increasing, albeit slowly due to limited use. With determination, he focused, saying, even though the absorption rate is low, I know its hidden skill will be key. Suddenly, an overwhelming energy surged within him, and his body began transforming, entering the gap of unconsciousness. Shin felt a sense of power growing as his mind and body synchronized with the artifact, setting the stage for what lay ahead. The mysterious forces around him created an aura of power, marking the start of his journey with the dagger. Shin Sang-hyun, standing in the glowing space of the gap of unconsciousness, nervously gazed at the bright lights surrounding him. It was the space he had to bypass in order to absorb an artifact. I'm always nervous every time I come in here. I never know what dish is going to come out. He muttered, his voice filled with uncertainty. Just as he said this, a shimmering golden rotisserie BBQ chicken appeared before him, sparkling with an otherworldly glow. Shin Sang-hyun's eyes widened in surprise as he realized what it was. The preparations for absorbing Venomoth's dagger were complete. The artifact, disguised as this delicious dish, was ready to be consumed. His eyes focused on the dish of rotisserie BBQ chicken drizzled with olive oil. Shin Sang-hyun, having just absorbed the Venomoth's dagger, expresses his relief at the dish he consumed. He initially feared the worst, wondering if the meal would be something unpleasant, like a humid swamp centipede. Looking at the dish, Shin Sang-hyun is eager to begin the process of absorbing the artifact and remarks, if it's a dish like this, I can eat it any time. As he devours the chicken, the absorption process of the Venomoth's dagger begins, with the stats of Agility +2 now permanently acquired. Soon after, he gains a hidden skill, Demon Bash, strengthening his abilities. However, the Venomoth's dagger, having now been completely absorbed, begins to disintegrate, and Shin notes that it will disappear forever. Shin Sang-hyun, sitting in front of a screen, letting out a sigh of relief as he glances at the object in his hand. Phew, it's a shame it got destroyed, he mutters. He examines the piece of equipment, but shrugs nonchalantly. Well, it's not like I'll use it either way. As Shin reflects, he speaks to himself, a satisfied smile playing on his lips. I obtained a useful skill like I planned. He adjusts his posture, stretching his arms. I should get going now. The scene transitions as we see a group gathered in front of a massive swirling portal, its blue light dominating the area. The sign below it reads, Dungeon Number 85, Team Yoon Daekyung. This is the focal point of the action. A new adventure is about to unfold. The air is filled with anticipation as the portal begins to open, setting the stage for the next challenge. Team Leader! A voice calls out urgently as the group notices the figure of Yoon Daekyung entering the scene. He acknowledges them with a nod, looking around as he receives the greeting. Team Leader Yoon Daekyung. Yoon Daekyung, visibly surprised, asks, What brings the Porter Group leader here? A team member mentions that one of his team members pulled out and introduces Shin Sang-hyun, a newcomer who joined 4 days ago. He confidently reassures that Shin will fit right in. The man responds in shock, questioning why Shin is joining the player team instead of the Porter team. The calm figure steps forward and states that he gave the final approval for Shin's decision to join the player team, implying that there's no issue with the choice. The man expresses concern, noting that Shin hasn't even finished the player academy yet. He feels uneasy about Shin joining the player team so soon, pointing out that it's never been done before. He worries about how the work will be distributed among the teams. The character, looking up to his superior, asks nervously about a new addition to their team. The leader confidently responds, Porter. Team. Leader, suggesting an important shift in leadership or role, which surprises the other character. His reaction is, yes, showing his disbelief. The leader, smiling and calm, explains that they take care of everything, including party arrangements and a distribution system. He assures with a casual laugh, apologizing for his earlier behavior. Oh. Of course. I apologize. The dialogue transitions to frustration from the character looking concerned. He remarks about the imbalance. Really, if you give those Porter bastards a chance to talk. Balance? My ass. A second character, likely a subordinate, questions the leader, expressing surprise over the decision. But sir, why did you accept him? The leader responds with a mixture of amusement and surprise. What? You too? indicating others are questioning his choice. In a more menacing tone, the leader darkly thinks, if someone's going to die, it would be him, not us. He needs to act up and die so those porters shut up. That way, our value is also maintained. His smile reveals a sinister edge. The leader and his subordinate laugh as they mock the porters. The subordinate casually asks, and what can a level 1 idiot even do? The leader responds, oh, ha ha. I didn't know that was your intention, and they both share a laugh. Enter Shin Sang-hyun, who proudly declares, starting today, I will be working as a player. My name is Shin Sang-hyun. His bold introduction marks the start of his journey as a new player. The three men look at each other with suspicion and tension as they sense the shift in their dynamic. The leader shares a mocking grin, while one of the subordinates watches, silently observing the change. Shin Sang-hyun, the protagonist, notices the exaggerated expressions of the group around him, sarcastically commenting on their lack of restraint. Everyone's very expressive, but aren't they taking it too far by not even hiding their expressions? A character in armor greets Shin, excitedly welcoming him as the newbie and joking about his first day. Finally, our newbie has arrived. Sang-hyun, right? Nice to meet you. I thought you were going to be late on your first day as a player. As the group gathers around, the armored man asks about Shin's weapon, giving a side-eyed look of curiosity. Your weapon. Is that a longsword? Shin confidently reveals his weapon, a longsword, and proudly explains that he has learned how to use it by watching YouTube videos. Yes, I studied a lot of videos on YouTube. The conversation continues between Shin Sang-hyun and his team. The leader of the group mentions that a longsword is one of the hardest types of weapons to wield, yet Shin confidently responds, I will at least try to protect myself. Please trust me. The leader bursts out laughing, appreciating Shin's spirit, stating, You have spirit. Good. Men need to have spirit just like me. As the group prepares for the dungeon raid, the leader enthusiastically declares, Now, let's start the dungeon raid. Let's go wild. The team reacts energetically, cheering in unison. The leader, taking charge, gives instructions to the team. All right, once you enter, stay on standby at the entrance. As the group gets ready for the dungeon raid, one of the characters, dressed in full armor, comments, I wonder how many I'm going to kill today. His teammate responds playfully, saying, Ha ha ha, I don't know about that, but I do know I'm going to kill more than you. Shin Sang-hyun, who is observing the exchange, keeps quiet but shows a calm demeanor as he prepares himself. The armored character, noticing Shin's composure, remarks with a grin, Looks like he has a death wish. However, he continues to watch as Shin keeps walking forward with his longsword, clearly unfazed. Another character reflects on Shin's attitude, muttering to himself, He studied on YouTube? How ridiculous. Does he think dungeons are a joke? He's so arrogant just because he awakened and became a player. Look like he has a death wish. Yoon Daek-young confidently declares, Well, according to the raid strategy that I procured, this orc dungeon is like the Wailing Wall for newbies. He watches with a smirk and mutters, He'll know his place very soon. Their teammate is clearly planning on testing Shin's abilities in the upcoming battle. The scene shifts, showing the tension between Shin and the others as they gear up for what lies ahead. The next panel reveals Shin Sang-hyun, standing tall with his party behind him, ready for action. His armor gleams under the dim lighting of the dungeon, showing his readiness and power. A battle is about to begin, and it's clear the team is in for a tough fight. One of the party members is left in awe after witnessing Shin's immense power in action, saying, This is insane, as they gaze at the aftermath of the fierce battle. Who the hell is he? They exclaim, clearly shocked at Shin's level of dominance in the raid.